everybody. I would like to start this program by congratulating everybody for the birth of the awaited Savior, Imam Zamana, Imam Mahdi Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And today we have a very great speaker with us. Inshallah, I will introduce him once I finish off the introduction, and I would like to just recite a small mankaba starting this program. And because this time is difficult for us, a few message which Aga had given me, that everything is a khair, and inshallah we don't need to worry. Inshallah there will be khair in everything. And the mankaba that I would like to recite right now is in Urdu, and the words are like Gar ho meri hayat mere ikhtiyar mein, sadiya guzar dunga tere intezar mein. So I just pray that whatever time it takes, if Allah gives me the tawfiq, I would want to be there with my Imam, no matter how long it takes. For Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. گر ہو میری حیات میرے اختیار میں صدیاں گزار دوں گا تیرے انتظار میں ہاں مولا باپ پردہ غیبت اٹھائیے دو دن تو زندگی کے گزارو بہار میں اس وقت گرچہ عدل سے خالی زمین ہے مظلوم کے مقام میں ظالم مکین ہے ارے دنیا ستم سراج ہے مغروب دین ہے ارے مولا ظہور آئیں گے مجھ کو یقین ہے مجھ کو یقین ہے آئے گی کچھ کمی نہ میرے اعتبار میں صدیاں گزار دوں گا تیرے انتظار میں. اور خصوصاً یہ وقت ہے جس میں ہم پکارے کہ مشکل کے وقت ہم نے پکارا ہے یا حسین غیبت کے امتحان میں سہارا ہے یا حسین قرآن و اہل بیت کا پارا ہے یا حسین حق نے ہمارے دل میں اتارا ہے یا حسین اتارا ہے یا حسین رہ کر دعائے بنت علی کے حصار میں صدیاں گزار دوں گا تیرے انتظار میں مولا ابا پردہ غیبت اٹھائیے دو دن تو زندگی کے گزارو بہار میں اور در پر تمہارے ہوتا ہے ہر روز معجزہ مولا اس مشکل سے آپ ہی معجزے سے ہر مومن کی ہر انسان کی جو مشکلات ہیں وہ دور کر سکتے ہیں کہ در پر تمہارے ہوتا ہے ہر روز معجزہ کتنے امیر ہو گئے اس در کی بھیک سے سب اپنے اپنے حصے کی خیرات لے گئے ذکر امام عصر میں حصہ کمر ملے حصہ کمر ملے میں مطمئن ہوں میں بھی کھڑا ہوں قطار میں مطمئن ہوں میں بھی کھڑا ہوں قطار میں صدیاں گزار دوں گا تیرے انتظار میں مولا با پردہ غیبت اٹھائیے دو دن تو زندگی میں गुजारो बहार में मोहम्मद वाले मोहम्मद सलवात अल्लाहुम्मा सल्ली अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद व अज्जिल फरजहुम व अताहुम अजमईन. Thank you so much. With this, I would like to invite our special speaker, Maulana Sayyid Ali Abbas Razawi, to Alhamdulillah take this program ahead with his lecture on Imam Zamana. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad sallallahu.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد، قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقد كتبنا في الزبور من بعد الذكر أن الأرض يرثها عبادي الصالحون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. In these days that we're celebrating the birth of our 12th Imam, we as a community, as a nation, are going through a period of crisis. You find that in times of confusion, God always opens a pathway to redemption. There's never been a time in history that there's been confusion and conflict, but that road has not been open towards the light. And as we followers of Wilayah truly know, that there's a dhikr of Sayyid al-Shuhada and the Ahlul Bayt is something that Yazid couldn't stop. And 1400 years later, here we are today. Climates may change, situations may change, but this remembrance never stops. And that's the beauty of this remembrance. You know, somebody was recently asking me, they were saying that, are we going to stop our Muharram programs? And I said, this is a promise by Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, that this remembrance is not going to stop. And you'll see the doors will open. We've just got to have hope. But go back and see, maybe in your lifetime, you faced no problem whatsoever, no trial and tribulation. But you go back to the time of the Abbasis and see how mothers on the day of Ashura would take their children outside of Baghdad and sit with them alone and share with them the ma'arif of Ahlul Bayt. Why? Because they were unable to gather like we've been gathering for a century or more. And if today, for whatever reason, we're unable to come to our mosques and we're in self-confinement or self-isolation, then understand that this dhikr won't stop even within our houses. And it's important for us to use this medium of the internet to go as far and wide as we can with this message. You know, there's a hadith that talks about waba and it talks about the last times. It talks about this tragedy that we're going through. And it says that in this period of time, it's important essentially to stay indoors, to stay in your houses. And more so, as the hadith says, if a person's outside of a city, remain outside, and if a person's inside, remain inside. And this is why some of our greatest scholars have said that in the past, when waba spread, they would prescribe for 40 days, if everyone stays in their house, you'll see that this is alleviated. But look, we're going through extraordinary times, and the whole world is in the same place. You know, last week, a very prominent Jewish figure in the world, at about 9 in the morning, FaceTimes me as I was thinking, what's the problem? I answered it thinking somebody had died, and there he was sitting in his vest in his room, and he said something very profound. He said, look, you know, God has closed all the mosques and all the synagogues and all the churches and all the temples and Mecca and Jerusalem and Najaf and Karbala. Everything's been closed. It's as if God has said to us or told us, just go back home. I don't need you. And I said to him in reply, I said, look, you could look at it another way as well. God doesn't just rest in the mosques or in the temples. The haram of Allah is the heart, and the place of wilayah is the heart. We have the best opportunity now to purify this heart. You know why? Because look, maybe we're unable, we're mahroom, we cannot get to Sayyid al-Shuhada. And maybe, yes, Najaf is closed and we can't travel to the Amir. Around this time every year I'm in Najaf and then I go to Karbala and Kadhimiya. But there's a reason why one Imam is in Ghaiba. You can go do the ziyarah of all of your Imams. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're connected to your Imam through your heart. But the purpose of the Ghaiba of the Imam is this, that when you call upon him, he answers you. And perhaps today we've been told to go into our houses, self-isolate, for that purpose, that we have an opportunity, and look at it as such. And that opportunity is to connect with our heart to the Imam of the time. Look, before I go any further, something comes in my mind. People always ask, they say, look, isn't it an injustice? Every Shia has been with their Imam. Companions were with Rasulullah, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Hassan, and all the way down to the 11th Imam. And the question is always asked, well, what about our community? What about our nation? Our Imam isn't present with us. Surely we're at a handicap. And you know what the reply is? And that's a valid question. Your children can ask this and your elders can ask this question. Why is it today that our Imam is not with us? Doesn't that leave us disabled in many ways, handicapped in many ways? Well, look, let me start off with the Prophet's tradition, where he says to his companions, all of a sudden he's in his zone, and as he's sitting there, he says, Salam on my brothers. So the companions get up and they say, are we not your brothers? Are you giving salam on us? And the reply is, no, I'm looking at those people who are going to come in the last days. Why? They haven't seen us, but they'll still believe in us. And this is why your prayer is worth tenfold than those people who pray when the Prophet or the Imam was there. And the reasoning is very simple. Hujjah has been complete upon them. And they can see their Imam. And they're with their Imam. But your reward is much more for every action that you do. You know why? Because you believe in the ghaib. You believe in that which is hidden. But there's a reason why Allah says in the Quran, this book is for what? The muttaqeen. الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. According to Tafsir Qummi, this ghaib is the belief in Akhir Zamana and the 12th Imam. So, who is a muttaqi, especially within these? The first tradition for a muttaqi, according to a mystical tradition. Now remember one thing. From the time of the 10th Imam to the 12th Imam's ghaiba, there are two parallel tracks of hadith which are running. One track of hadith, a more rational hadith, right? And later on, when Al-Kafi is compiled, it has some mystical traditions, but not all of them. There's a second track which is running. And though that track is hidden, as is the nature of spirituality, and they contain the spiritual teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, which are there, but they don't come into circulation very often. So for example, the compilations of Basar al-Darajat, which predates Al-Kafi. Well then, you have other mystical traditions, even the Tafsir al-Qummi, if you go deep into it. It was only later on when many of these traditions then were compiled, and even today they're not in circulation. And there's a reason for that. You've got to be ahl to these traditions to understand them. If Sayyid Radi compiles the Nahj al-Balagha that you have, his brother compiles another book of sermons, Said Murtada. But this time around, it's of all of the mystical traditions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So you have two parallel books. One brother compiles a book today. If you look at the Nahj, it's complex for us, but for them it was easy. And so his brother compiled the mystical traditions of Amir al-Mu'mineen. So look, in the same way, today we have an opportunity. And I'm going to go back to that tradition of the Prophet that he says salam. Why? Because you haven't seen the Prophet. And then from there, another tradition then develops. Look, the sixth Imam had a number of companions. And this is the best way I can tell you ghaiba and your maqam in ghaiba. Sixth Imam had a number of companions. One of his companions was a guy by the name of Jabir. Jabir al-Ju'afi was a person who was greatly powerful, because every Imam teaches the khas. You've got Sahib Am, Sahib Khas. Those ashab who are umumi for the people. I'll give you an example on the life of the Prophet. There's some companions which were with the Prophet, but he didn't divulge to them secrets. But if you look at Salman, Abu Dhar, they had secrets. In the same way, Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam taught certain companions with certain secrets. The same way the sixth Imam teaches Jabir with some of these secrets. And one of the power that he had was he was able to travel through space and time in a blink of an eye. Tayal Ard. 1 minute one place, 1 minute in another location. And that only comes when a person reaches a profound level of Tawheed. And you can only get to a level of Tawheed if you truly understand the concept of Wilaya. So anyhow, one day he goes to Kufa, and in Kufa, there was a particular companion by the name of Abu Basir. Now, Abu Basir again is very famous. And the Imam trained many people, one in spirituality. He would train some in, for example, Kalam. He would train some in jurisprudence. So each subject was covered by somebody. Muhammad bin Muslim, for example, was a jurist, he was a faqih. And his responsibility, his job was to teach the people about the ahkam, about fiqh. And so in this way, Abu Basir is in Kufa, and Jabir comes to him and he asks him a question. He says, look, would you like to go and see your Imam? He says, yes, I would. He says, come with me. Takes him by the hand, and they appear in Medina. And Abu Basir, the name itself, father of sight, right? But the thing about Abu Basir was that he was blind. And so he says to Jabir, he says, Jabir, you go ahead. I'll take my own time to come to my Mawla. And so at that moment, the Jabir goes and he sees that the sixth Imam is in Masjid al-Nabawi. And Imam introduces him, brings him to him. And then he says, look, Jabir, I want you to do me a favor. He says, Ola, what is it? He said, look, let's stand next to Babu Jibreel. And whoever comes through the door, ask them if they can see Ja'far ibn Muhammad. So Jabir looks up and he says, Mawla, if you want me to do that, I can do that. But people may think I'm not all there. And that's in my words. So he says, look, no, just do it. So it so happens that the Imam is standing there next to the door, and with him is his companion. And one by one, people are coming and he's asking them the question, can you see Imam al-Sadiq? Can you see Ja'far ibn Muhammad? And each one of them, as they walk in, they say, no, we can't see him. We can't see him. We can't see him. Eventually, a blind man, that blind man, Abu Basir, is coming, and he's got a stick in his hand and he's hitting on the road, and he's coming forward and he comes through Babu Jibreel. So Jabir asks him a question. He says, Mawla, do I have to ask him as well? He can't see. He says, ask him. So he asks him. He says, Abu Basir, do you know where Ja'far ibn Muhammad is? Do you know where your Imam is, Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam? And he replies, he says, yes, he's standing right next to you. And at that moment, Jabir looks up. And before he can say anything, Abu Basir answers. He says, Jabir, to see your Imam is not with these eyes. To see your Imam is with these eyes. The heart's open, you can see your Imam. Now contextualize that into the situation that you're in. All the doors have been closed to you, outward doors. You can't go on Hajj, you can't go on Umrah, you can't go on Ziyarah. You're away from your Imams. But the philosophy of Ghaiba teaches us that we have an opportunity in this khalwa, in your seclusion, to use the power of your heart to connect to the Imam of your time. This is why the great Arif, Ayatollah Abdul Karim al-Kashmiri, and for those people who may not know him, he was one of the students of Sayyid Ali Qadhi Marhum. Sayyid Ali Qadhi being the great mystic, the teacher of Allama Tabatabai, Hassan Ilahi, the brother of Allama Tabatabai, or for example, Ayatollah Bahjat, and others. Some of the most famous Urafa of the 20th century have come through him. And those Urafa, be they in India, So for example, if you go to Hyderabad, buried over there is one of the students of Qadi Said Hassan Masqati Isfahani, who on the instructions went to India. And according to some people, that great Khatib, Rashid Turabi, also benefited from Said Hassan Masqati Isfahani. Iranian of origin, studied in Najaf with Said Ali Qadi, later went to Masqat, hence the name Masqati, and then after that came to India, passed away there. Or for example, they call him Qadi Thani, the second Qadi. For example, in Kashmir, there was Sayyid Kashmiri, who also passed away over there. Very famous mystics. So they're mystics who are buried in India, they're mystics who are buried in Iraq, in Iran, in Azerbaijan, students of Said Ali Qadi. Anyhow, Ayatollah said Abdul Karim Kashmiri, one of the things that he had an ability was when people went for an istikhara from him, he'd pull out a bead. And after pulling out a bead, he was able to tell them 54 different conclusions from that. Until one day, Ayatollah Bahjat said to him, look, you know, this is not within our way to tell so much to so many people. Don't tell them. And after that, eventually came to a stage where he stopped giving such a detailed istikhara. So that Ayatollah Kashmiri, somebody asked him, and I've heard this with my own ears. They said, look, you know, how do we gain qurb with the Imam? How do we gain that connection with that Imam of ours? Now, bearing in mind, this Imam of ours is for everyone. You know, when you go to the Quran, right, you come to understand through our tafsir, and I was talking about the mystical traditions. So, for example, when it says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, Shams is Rasulullah, according to Tafsir al-Qummi. But when it shines, when the sun shines, that shining, وَضُحَاهَا, what is that? The essence of that is the 12th Imam. Or for example, Tafsir al-Furat, when it says, وَالشَّمْسِ وَضُحَاهَا, Rasulullah, وَالْقَمَرِ إِذَا تَلَاهَا أَمِرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَالنَّهَارِ إِذَا جَلَّاهَا, Imam Zamana alayhi salam. So you find connected to the prophecy of the Prophet, the completion lies in the 12th Imam. To give you another verse of the Quran and just building this discussion on, because I want to take you somewhere. You know, when Allah says in the Quran that هو الذي أرسل رسوله بالهدى ودين الحق ليظهره على الدين كله. It says that He's Allah, هو الذي أرسل, the one, He is the one who sends His Prophet with what? بالهدى ودين الحق, guidance and the true religion. Now, question is, what is this? I'll come on to it. ليظهره على الدين كله, that it may become apparent over all of the other faiths. And a question is asked is, what does that mean? This ليظهره على الدين كله is the 12th Imam. And Deen Haq is actually the primordial religion, the monotheism that has been coming from Adam to Khatam. That's why even in the tradition it says that when the 12th Imam does reappear, Muslims are not going to understand what this Islam is, because so much tahrif would have come. Look at it today. You go to certain parts, just go a year ago to Medina, you'll see. In Mecca, you'll see. There's so much difference, the span of Islam from this extreme to the other extreme. But here, Quran talks about this. لِيُظْهِرُهُ عَلَى الدِّينِ كُلِّهِ. It'll become apparent, it'll be ghalib over everything. And what does it mean? It's not a negative thing, it's actually a positive thing. Why? Because everyone in their own religion and their own faith is waiting for a messianic figure to come. You know, today if you go into Judaism, they're waiting for the Mashiach to come. Who is the Mashiach? The Mashiach is the descendant of David, Dawood. And what does he do when he comes? He'll come, appear in Jerusalem. And then after that, he'll fill the world with justice and peace and bring people together. In the same way, Christianity is waiting for the second coming of Jesus. Who is Jesus? In and of itself, Jesus is essentially from really that line, from his mother's side, from the line of Dawood, is the Messiah for. And then in the same way, if you look at the Muslims, you know, there's a reason why the 12th Imam's mother is from the line of Shimon. Why is that? Because they're related to Jesus, they're related to the Davidic line. So what does that mean, therefore? That means when your 12th Imam comes, it may not appeal to you, you may not never even thought about it. Why does his mother have to be from the East European Empire for? It's not for our sake. Yes, she was the most pure woman of the time. But the fact is when he comes, and according to Islamic belief, that when Jesus comes back, he'll be related to Jesus. Jesus essentially will be his uncle. So from the mother's side. So in this way, there are all sorts of links. And why are there links? So that every nation has a claim on the Imam. You know, to give you another example, your sixth Imam had blue eyes. Now, why did he have blue eyes for? Because his mother's father was Qasim. And Qasim's mother was who? Qasim's father was Muhammad ibn Abi Bakr, but his mother and Imam Zain al-Abidin's mother were sisters, and they were both from Persia. They were both the daughters of the final Persian emperor. Aryan race, they were part of that race. And so in those days, the Aryan race, if you go back into history, you'll see they had particular characteristics, blonde hair, blue eye. This was transferred to the sixth Imam. Why is that important? Because even to this day, there's certain people who claim from that race, and your Imams are related to them. And your Imams have covered everything. But today, there's no one who can say that we don't have a nisbah to the Imams. If you look, for example, from the seventh Imam, eighth Imam, North African mothers, East African mothers, everything's been covered. You go and look at today and see Zayd al-Shahid. His mother was from Sindh. So everything, Ahlul Bayt have covered everything. That every single person has a claim to it. And Nasab, even though we say there's equality, but everyone still holds Nasab very high. And we don't go on that. You know, we go on the fact that taqwa is the most important. Inna akramakum indallahi atqakum. We go on taqwa. But the fact of the matter is this, that other people do. And the Imams have covered all bases. So look, all of those things I'm saying for one purpose. And that's this. When your Imam does come, everyone will be waiting for an awaited Savior. And all the characteristics are there. In every faith, if you look at the description given, in every single faith, from the Dharmic faiths to the Abrahamic faiths and onwards, to the Far Eastern faiths, Taoism, or even if you, and I would say maybe Buddhism isn't a faith, but if you look at the concept of the end of the cycle of suffering in the last days, a Buddha figure is going to arise again, and that figure is the Imam. And we can break it down, we can go into detail, but today we don't have time to do that. All of this for one reason, and that is the world is waiting for a savior. And this is why it says in the hadith that the world will be crying for somebody to come and save it. And it's crying today. Look and see. Last week I had a conversation with faith leaders across Europe. They're saying that our online audiences have increased tenfold. All of the communities, Jewish communities, Christian communities, Muslim online communities, Sikh communities, Vaisakhi is coming. So many people are going to be tuning in. Why are people returning back to religion? Because sometimes it takes a jolt for people to come back. But what do we do as followers of Ahlul Bayt? Let's reverse that around. Now let me go back to Ayatollah Kashmiri. Ayatollah Kashmiri said, when somebody asked him, they said, how do we connect with the Imam of our time? He says, go to khalwa, do khalwa. Khalwa means seclusion. Every day, he said an hour. I'm not even going to say an hour. I'm going to say 10 minutes. Okay, forget 10 minutes, 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes in one day. Go into a room by yourself. Switch off from the world and just call your Imam. And he gave a dhikr. Ya sahib al-zaman, aghithni. Ya sahib al-zaman, adrikni. Al-mustaghathu bika yabna al-Hasan. Just recite it. Recite it and connect with your Imam. And you'll see those 5 minutes, forget the hour, you won't be able to do it, not in this lifestyle. That hour is for ulama. For you, 5 minutes. Take out 5 minutes, connect to your Imam. Call upon your Imam and you'll see. That connection is there, you'll connect. Slowly, slowly it builds in it. It's like a form of muraqabah, a form of meditation. Tabarkus takes place, centrality takes place. When that light shines, it shines. The effect of the Imam is there. The Imam is connected to you from your heart. And this is why the tradition says, due to your connection, sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel happy, and you don't know why. It's because your Imam is happy. And sometimes you wake up in the morning feeling sad. You don't know why, because your Imam is sad. Those are the connections that we need to build. In anticipation for that time, as the Imam says, that when your 12th Imam does finally come, He'll come next to Maqam Ibrahim and pray 2 units of prayers. Right? At that moment, you think the Imam is going to come as a victor? The Imam himself will come. And this is why the dua is there. You know, when somebody goes through pain, what do you say? أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُسْتَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Who is this Mustar that we talk about? It's the 12th Imam himself. And when he comes, he will recite this and he'll raise his hands because he'll be broken. No army, no nothing. He will have nothing with him. And when he comes and he sees the state of affairs in the world and the confusion, he raises his hands. أَمَّا يُجِيبُ الْمُسْتَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Allah answers his prayer. He says, my servant is calling me. I'm going to answer him. What does Allah do? In the same way that he did for Sulaiman and Dawood. But more than that, he gives him domination of everything. And that's important power of dua. I don't want you to forget that. Your 12th Imam prays as well. In the same way, look at Nuh alayhi salam, right? We have a hadith that says that the Imam is similar to 3 prophets. First one, Nuh. Why? Long life. Nuh had a long life. What else did Nuh have? He waited a long time, right? Waited a long time for this adhab to come down. 950 years, let's say. Now look and see. Today, you complain if your dua has not been answered. Let me put it to you another way. Imagine those people. Imagine if a prophet said to you, tomorrow torment is coming. For 1 week it didn't come. You still believe in him, but after a month, some people would leave and say he's a false prophet. 2 months, more people would leave. 6 months, more people would leave. 1 year, more people. 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 100 years, 200 years, 900 years. Now, do you understand why there's only 7 people, one tradition says, with the new who are remaining, and others is 30? So now imagine, look at your own souls and see the mithal is the mithal of the current times. Look at and see. Your grandparents had more belief in the Imam, they didn't see him. And their parents had more belief, and their parents had more belief. And today our belief is filtering and it's falling. And it's in the way that one day when the Imam was sitting there, what did he say? Imam was crying, your 4th Imam. And one of his companions came, Abu Khalid Kabuli. You go to Kabul in Afghanistan, there's a muassasa made, there's a center made just under his name. So he goes to the Imam and he says, Mawla, you know, why are you crying for? And he says, I can see the end times. I can see people's faith eroding. I can see them internally becoming murtad. I can see that in the morning when they leave, they have faith. When they come back, they won't have faith. Mawla can see all of this. He says, I can see people reading the Quran, but they don't take the essence of the Quran. They memorize it, but they don't understand the essence. And I can see people going to the mosques. The mosques will be full, but there's no Islam in the mosques. Their tongue will be sweet. They'll give sweet talk, but their hearts will be full of anger and rage and negativity towards one another. Ghiba will be the norm of the day. Youngsters will have no respect for their elders. Elders will have no mercy for their youngsters. And you've seen that, right? Who stands up for their elders now? People shout at their elders. They don't stand up. And some of our elders are with the mercy gone that you're meant to have compassion for the children. And look, I'm not saying this. If it wasn't in the tradition, I wouldn't even quote it. But here your Imam is saying, he's saying this is the situation. This is what's going to happen. And he says the fuqaha will be corrupt. Right? Those people who give fatwa, muftis will be corrupt. And today you see that. Look, in parts of Saudi Arabia and other parts of the world, how easy is it to give somebody money and then that's so they give a fatwa? He says when that situation happens and takes place, the la'an of Allah will be upon the people. And he's crying. So Abu Khalid gets worried. He says, Mawla, you know, I'm worried now. If I live until then, what am I going to do? He says, yes, there's 2 ways you can preserve yourself. He says, Mawla, tell me, what are those 2 ways? He says, 1 way is this. Have belief in the imamat of the Mahdi, which all of you, mashallah, do. Second thing is this. Intidhar. Be muntadhir of the coming. What does that mean? It means this. Pray for your Imam. Remember your Imam and pray for him. But you can ask me, but Imam doesn't need my prayers. Imam doesn't need my prayers. Why should I pray for him? So let me reply to you with another story. The story is this. There's a guy by the name of Abdul Rahman in the time of the 10th Imam. He was from Isfahan. And in those days, Iran wasn't Shia. Mostly people who lived there were actually anti-Ahlul Bayt. Anyhow, he was just a normal member of the Sunni sect at the time and he came to Samara at the time. Mutawakkil was the Khalif, and the purpose of him coming was that his sustenance had run out. He didn't have enough money, so he wanted to go to Mutawakkil and ask him for money. And when he got there, as he was about to come in, he saw that a person had been summoned, and he thought, who's this person who's been summoned? God help him, because Mutawakkil's a butcher, and everybody knew that. Who was it? Your 10th Imam. Your 10th Imam has been brought into the court. And at that moment, this man stops and he says, who is this man? And a person replies, he says, he's the grandson of the Prophet. And not believing in the Imam of the 10th Imam, but evidently, Sunnis and Shia have respect for the Imams of the Ahlul Bayt. If not as the Imam, but as the descendant of the Prophet. So he says, look, I lifted my hands up. I said, Allah, this is the son of your Habib. Protect him from Mutawakkil. Imam at that moment turned around and smiled. He said, Abdul Rahman, your dua has been answered. And Abdul Rahman, I've prayed for you as well, and Allah will give you 3 things. Allah, what is that? 3 things. 1, He'll give you long life. 2, He'll give you sustenance. You won't need to put your hand out in front of anyone. 3, He'll give you the best of children who will help you, follow you in your time of difficulty. Now you understand why it's important to pray for your Imam? Okay, maybe your Imam doesn't need your prayers. But isn't your Imam lonely? Is your Imam not in pain when he sees the plight of the people across the world? When he sees dhulm, oppression? He prays for you. You pray for him. If you can't do anything, open your hands, raise it and say, Allah, make sure my Imam's heart's at peace. What does the Imam reciprocate? Do you think he'll give one dua back to you or give multiple duas back to you? It's the connection. So pray for your Imam. So those really are 2 things that I wanted to mention. Look, there's a lot more that I want to discuss, and I can see our time is flying very fast. But look, before I conclude, there's a number of other things I want to say to you. And then we'll conclude on this. What I want to say is this. See, when the Imam comes, the tradition says that he'll be wearing the shirt of Ibrahim. He'll be wearing the ring of Sulaiman. He'll be having the stick in his hand of Musa. Remember Musa, and that stick of Musa actually goes back as well to Nuh, that divided the water. He'll look like Isa, according to one tradition. In another tradition, it says he'll look like Musa. Why? To go back, because the people of the world can relate to that. So to complete that tradition, I said, he's like 3 prophets. 1, Nuh. 1, Musa. Why? Musa's birth was hidden. And all of a sudden, Musa comes in front of the Pharaoh, out of nowhere, really. Same way your Imam will come, out of nowhere. Last minutes of the night, finishing, coming into morning, Imam will be given the hukum, go. And he goes. And in the same way, he'll be like Isa. Why? People think he's dead. Some think he's dead, some think he's to be born. But the fact of the matter is this, he's in ghiba. And that's what's important, to remember that. So look, there's a lot of things that we've mentioned. There's a lot of things we've talked about. A hadith comes to mind though, and this is pertinent for all of you. You see, that la'an that comes in akhir zaman upon the people, there's certain things that one doesn't do. One of them is this. those people in the last days who take prayer lightly in the sense that they delay their prayers, you have the best time at the moment. You're in your houses. Straighten your prayers up. In the words of Said Ali Qadi Marhum, as I've heard from Ayatollah Bahjat, he would say if a person prays for 40 days, in fact, he said if a person prays on time and does nothing else but prays on time, taqweenan, Allah will take him to a maqam. And if not, come and give la'an on my grave. So you have the best opportunity now. Fix up your prayers. And I say that to everyone, including myself. Second thing, says that when people stop giving zakat, la'an of Allah comes down. And one of the traditions says this, by the way, that there are two types of people the Imam will put to death. One of them who don't give zakat. Zakat meaning khums, right? What is zakat? Purifying your wealth. Zakat has different types. Khums is 20%, it's 1/5. So essentially it falls under the umbrella, but you give 20% on your lawful earnings, as zakat is on particular things. So in this way, that's the second stipulation that one needs to bear in mind. But more so, and really the final thing that I want to say is this, and do bear this in mind. Look, certain things, it's very simple to fall into certain problems in this day and age. You know what one of them is? Avoid these things. One of them is putting a date on when the Imam is going to come. To say that, look, this is the sign now, the coming of the Imam. Now the Imam is about to appear. No, stay away from this. Just develop yourself, build the dhuhr in yourself. Yes, there are traditions, a waba will spread from the east and go to the west and come back to the east. Right? Then a second time will come wipe out 1/3 of the world. And people are looking at it and thinking, maybe this is it. It's falling in the pattern of the hadith. Okay, fine. Maybe it won't be. Don't go by these. Remember, all of the signs change but 5. These are not qat'i signs that are taking place. 5 are. And that's in the last year heralding the appearance. Look, I don't have time to go into the alamats of the dhuhr. But build yourself. Get your prayers correct. And the second thing is this, help humanity. Work to help humanity. Work regardless of color, creed. Okay. Language, color, creed, religion. Doesn't mean anything. Help humanity. But anyhow, second thing that I was going to say is this. Firstly, don't look at the signs and say, this is what's happening. But secondly, don't, and this is the second point, be very vigilant not to claim to have met the Imam. Hadith is that anybody who claims is a liar. Now, at this moment, you can ask me the question, what about Muqaddis Ardabili, Sayyidina al-Ta'us, even modern day Ayatollah Bahuddini, Sayyid Mahdi Bahrul Ulum? Did they not meet the Imam? They met the Imam. They met the Imam. Are they not liars? No, because they didn't declare it. They didn't open up their shop. You can write it down. People, see, the hadith doesn't say a person can't meet the Imam. It says to disclose meeting the Imam is a liar. So it doesn't mean you can't see the Imam. There are people who do ziyarah of the Imam. Why? He's the Imam of your time. To declare it in your lifetime, to open up shop, to say, come and give me bayah, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. You don't do that. But of course, many of our ulama have done. They've met the Imam. They've been connected to the Imam. But can anybody claim it? No. So that's really a second point that is very important to bear in mind. Just remember that. And thirdly is this. Don't just read the signs. Start changing yourself. Align yourself with the thinking of the Imam. You know, there's a particular hadith that comes to mind that says, look, in the last days, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, the security of a person will lie in staying at home and controlling their tongue. As it says that you've got 2 types of mats, right? You've got a doormat that people wipe their feet on outside to come in. You've got a mat which is inside of the house. In the hadith, it specifically says that you'll become like a mat, carpet inside of the house that won't see outside. So you can imagine, in this time of fitna and fasad, best thing is this. Kun fil fitnati ka ibn al-labun. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, be in times of fitna, in times of confusion and civil disobedience. Like this child camel, that you can't ride a child camel, you can't milk it. You look at the child camel, you think, this is harmless, worthless. Become like that and keep your quiet, keep your silence. Develop yourself. Stand up against dhulm with your heart, or when you can strategically do something. Sometimes taking the street is actually counterproductive. So this is why they say, wait for the instructions of your ulama. I remember a time when people used to say, why doesn't Ayatollah Sistani say anything? Why is he quiet in his house? Why doesn't he talk on things? Today you've seen that when Ayatollah Sistani does talk, it saves an entire nation from Daesh, from terror. And in his own words, that when I say something, there's a reason behind it. And when I'm quiet, there's a reason behind it. So really, that's my final thing. Hold on to the standard of marja'iyah. Take guidance from them. Don't take things into your own hands. This is the time of quietness. This is the time of being in your house. And this is the time of helping people. Because by helping them, you're changing the hearts of people. You're bringing them to goodness. You're bringing them to light. Tomorrow you can say to them that these are the followers of Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq, alayhi salam. So look, on that particular point, use this month of Sha'ban, which is the month of the wilayah of the Ahlul Bayt, the love of the Ahlul Bayt. Develop yourself spiritually. The best dhikr in this month is salawat. Send as much as you can. Through the power of the salawat, you'll see that you become closer. Things start becoming more obvious to you. Your dua starts becoming mustajab. To protect yourself from bala in this month, waba, and in all the other months with this virus, remember to recite the dua of Amir al-Mu'mineen before you leave the house, because that's extremely powerful in protection. In the Hashia is written that even if bala comes to you, waba comes to you, you'll be protected. And of course, take precaution. It doesn't mean that you're reciting a dua, you don't take precaution. No. We do both things. We take precaution and then we pray. And two final dhikrs is this. One is the dhikr which says, Ya Allahu, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, Ya Muqallib al-Qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. And again, this dhikr has been given to us. And the final thing is that dua to gain ma'arif of the Imam, where you pray to Allah to ask for that ma'arifah. So with that, I want to bring this to a close. For the sake of our Imams, for the sake of the 12th, for the sake of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, may Allah protect all of us. In this month, may He give us the ability to spiritually rectify ourselves. May He make us firm on His true deen, the deen of compassion, love, and wilayah. For those people who may be sick, may Allah alleviate their sickness and help them solve any tragedy that they may be going through, trial or tribulation. Allah hasten the dhuhr of the Imam alayhi salam and make us all part of His ansar. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin.